over the years, people have wondered, did he juice? Did he take steroids?
Do you really think that Hugh Jackman is 100% natural?
Oh, absolutely.
Hugh Jackman was not 100% natural for his roles as the Wolverine.
I love my job and I love Wolverine. I've got to be careful what I say here.
And so this is big news. It's being reported everywhere. The New York Post, Variety.com, Pabidi. And so everyone's talking about it.
It does make for a good topic, so I'm going to talk about it too. I'm going to go over some stuff Greg Doucette said, some stuff that More Plates, More Dates said in the past. I'm going to share some of my own thoughts related to that as well. So what makes me qualified to give an opinion worth anything? Well, I kind of look like Wolverine a little bit.
It is the truth.
Really in body, and I was able to do that all naturally, and his workout, actually how he achieved that, is very similar to some of my workouts. So anyway, I think that makes me qualified. So even though I think Hugh Jackman was completely natural playing Wolverine throughout the course of the films, and he didn't use any PEDs, I'm pretty damn sure he at least had adequate natural testosterone levels. Speaking of which, make sure you guys get tested. Check out my link in the description below. It'll only cost you $1. Get tested. If you're low for whatever reason, look for some natural ways to boost those levels up. If that doesn't work, consider maybe TRT. Talk to your doctor. Obviously, you want to get that supervised. Now, with that said, when I say and think that Hugh Jackman was completely natural, TRT does not fit in that category. Most people do not consider that to be natural. I don't consider that to be natural. So I do not think Hugh Jackman took TRT, SARMs, growth hormone, steroids, or any of those other substances. And we're going to get into that. But get tested. Check it out. It's only going to cost you $1. See where you're at, and then just go from there.
I'd buy that for $1.
I had been told anecdotally what the side effects are of that, and I was like, I don't love it that much.
Yeah, no.
So, no, I just did it the old school way.
Many people, they look at these interviews and they just hear what the person's saying. But remember, 78% of communication, it's nonverbal. It's what is he saying between the lines?
Greg makes a good point as far as that goes, because there's like a whole science related to like reading body language, right? I think FBI does that when they do interrogations. They probably study that to some degree, I would imagine. But a lot of it is like, you know, where are these people looking? Are they fidgeting? How are their hands? Are they closed off? Are they opening up? There's like all kinds of different things. Here's the thing though. Hugh Jackman is an amazing actor. He obviously knows this. So why wouldn't he incorporate some of these tactics in his real life? And you know he's going to get asked that question, whether he's natural or not, especially when something like that Liver King news popped out. Now everyone's questioning anybody who's natural, right? Liver King never looked natural, man. But anyway, and Hugh Jackman in Wolverine does not look like Liver King. Conditioning-wise, he's just as impressive, but he doesn't have nearly the size. But he had to have known that that kind of question would come up. And he would, I'm sure, rehearse the answer like anybody. So whether he was trying to mislead or whether he was being completely honest, he would know what to do with his body language being asked that question just as a trained performer. Because in a way, when you're getting interviewed, you are kind of performing, right? A little bit.
What is he saying that he's not saying? What is his body language, his mannerisms? What are they speaking? Well, they're speaking volumes, at least to me.
As far as Greg trying to say his body language speaks volumes, I'm pretty damn sure Hugh Jackman thought that through. And I don't really see any red flags, man. I give him the benefit of the doubt. Because, again, I don't think it's that big of a deal these days if he just said, look, this role requires a lot of training, and I got to be in the best shape of my life. So he could say, well, I went to like a doctor supervised, and they were giving me like these different peptides and hormones to get me in peak physical condition. I don't think anybody would look down on that. I don't think there'd be a stigma. I just don't think he needed to do that.
It's 5:45. We're at the gym. Focus! Come on.
In the 2000 movie X-Men, you can see here what Hugh Jackman is actually capable of sustaining naturally with his own natural testosterone production. If this was based on what he could do naturally, his physique would regress as the years went on, or stay the same at most. It wouldn't get significantly better as the years progress.
When that movie came out, he was 32, so obviously when they filmed it, he was 30, 31, and most likely lifting weights for the first time. 30 in general, still pretty young. So when you jump forward to like 2014 when X-Men Days of Futures Past came out, where according to Derek he looked his most, quote, sauced or jacked, you're talking 14 years of training. since his start. Now, obviously, Hugh Jackman wasn't training consistently during that 14 years, but because he did so many X-Men films between 2000 and 2014, he would obviously continue to build off of what he did for that original X-Men. So there is muscle memory involved. And I think natural guys, like let's say assuming Hugh Jackman's natural, I believe they tend to peak in their 40s, man, because then you really start getting that muscle maturity and that really hard look. So with Hugh Jackman, 14 years of training, obviously it would have been on and off, but there's no reason why he couldn't look significantly better in his early to mid 40s compared to when he was 30. Like, there's no reason. Like, I actually look sharper when I diet down. I look sharper now than I did in my 20s or 30s, and I've been a natural lifter since I was a teenager. So I got anecdotal proof right there. So that's why I can believe that Hugh Jackman was actually natural.
Moving forward into 2009, so he's 41 years old here, and this is the first time Hugh really showed that really evident androgenic look that had people starting to question whether this guy was natural or not.
I don't think he was significantly bigger in X-Men Days of Future Past. I think he was significantly sharper, but not significantly bigger. And another thing, another experiment that I tested out, by the way, and I've been working out consistently for probably 28 years, 29 years this year, which is ridiculous, man. But another thing is, can you gain muscle when you're 40, for example? Well, if you check out my neck training video, in 1 month, I actually put on size on my neck when I just started directly training it. So it is still possible, being all natural, to actually, and having lifted forever, to still put on muscle. So that's entirely possible. And just for an example, here's a picture of me. This isn't even in great lighting. This is not even pumped. This is not fully dieted down, though I was looking pretty lean, so I was in pretty good shape here. But this is just me playing around when I was transitioning into the the Viking Samurai Wolverine. So, and people question this, oh, that's not natural. It's like, yes, it is. I 100% know for a fact that is. So if I could do that, I don't see why Hugh Jackman couldn't do what he did in the Wolverine movie. And remember, I'm not lit good. I'm not pumped. I'm not fully dieted down. But that's a very similar physique for an all-natural guy in his 40s. That's why I bring that up for an example.
You have to keep in mind, when you're 41 years old, I'm not going to say you can't maintain or achieve this physique naturally. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Well, to Derek's credit, I'm glad he at least says, and he seems to believe, that somebody could achieve that naturally, which is great. And to me, the purpose of this video, it's not so much of whether Hugh Jackman himself did it or not. It's more, and I think what people are interested, can it be done? Because whether he did it naturally or not, who cares? Somebody else wanting to build their own body, obviously that's going to be way more important to themselves than whether or not Hugh Jackman did it naturally. Now, Hugh Jackman can inspire people, but I think the main question is, can that be achieved naturally? It seems like Derek at least believes that it could, which is good, because that's really the important thing, is we don't want these limited beliefs in our mind, man. There's a fine line on people putting this information out. I do think it's negative when people just start working out and they already have in their head, oh, there's no way I could look like that. Well, then obviously you're never going to look like that, and that's a very negative thing. Now, if you're like Liver King, who's a fake natty, or say some professional bodybuilder, then sure, it's important for people to say, look, you're not going to look like Ronnie Coleman in Mr. Olympia. That's not going to happen naturally. In fact, anybody watching this, 99.9%, you could get on all the drugs in the world, you're still not going to look like Ronnie Coleman and Mr. Olympia. That's just the fact, man, because genetics plays such a big part when it comes to this.
As a natural, you're going to peak within probably 3 to 5 years of perfect diet and training. It's going to be closer to 3 years if you had perfect diet and training for the entirety of that time, in my opinion, with very negligible gains at that point thereafter for each consecutive year.
I'd say that 3 to 5 years, that's pretty accurate, man, and I've noticed that myself. So, but again, that's 3 to 5 years. So even if you're all natural, that's 3 to 5 years of really nice gains and progress. And then after that, you could continue to improve your conditioning. Now, a lot of that's going to have to do with diet, but there is that muscle maturity, so you will look better, which is why I say I think most guys will actually probably look their best in their 40s, whether they started as a teenager like me, 20s, 30s, or whatever. But if you're starting now for the first time in your 40s, it's still a great age. I mean, if you're older, there's so many benefits to lifting weights in general. So just start regardless of if you lifted in the past or if you never lifted. Just start today, whatever your age. That's a recommendation. But, regardless of your age, make sure to do it naturally, because you do have many years of good gains that you have to look forward to. And I always laugh when people will like take stuff before they actually properly learn how to train and diet and get all that down. And again, you're going to learn a lot in that 3 to 5 years of consistently working out, and you're going to get great results. But this just reminds me of a story of one of my wife's ex-tattoo artists. Dude didn't even lift weights, and then he's going to start working out. And he'd already like, I don't know, he's got connections to and knows different people, right? But long story short, he bought all these like steroids, and he's like, okay, I'm going to start working out. It's like, dude, you don't need those drugs right now, man. Work out 3 to 5 years, get your results, and then at that point, maybe consider using that if you really want to take things up a notch, man. But I think most people, if they do it right and they're natural, 3 to 5 years, you're going to build a pretty nice physique. And then, like me, they're going to be like, hey, this is fine. I mean, obviously, you always want more, but it's like, look, if I could do this and maintain my health and stay natural, then I'm just going to keep running with this because this is good enough, man. Because I'm not going to compete in bodybuilding or put my health at risk or anything else like that. Plus, it's not even legal to buy that stuff, man. There's too many... I think there's way more negatives than positives.
I had been told anecdotally what the side effects are of that, and I was like, I don't love it that much.
Yeah, no.
The look about him, like I mentioned, just very trend-like, and I wouldn't hesitate to assume that he probably did hop on something. If it wasn't trend, it was something very androgenic.
And that's what people really question more. It's not so much the size, it's that conditioning, right? Like, sharing my own story and experience, I got as big as 245 pounds at one point. Now, obviously, I wasn't nearly as lean, but 245, I don't think people really question as much whether I was on stuff. But when I was like closer to 200, I'm 190 now with pretty good vascularity, decent leanness. At 190, people will question me more. It's not because I'm bigger. Obviously, I'm much smaller than when I was at my absolute peak, or even when I was like 220. But they'll question me more because they talk about like the hardness and the conditioning in the veins. And when you work out, you look a lot more impressive, right? Like if I put this side by side of me curling in the gym and Hugh Jackman working out, you'll see we have very similar vascularity here in the veins. And I'm going to do a future video just all about vascularity because there's a lot of things that can help your vascularity. Obviously, there's a genetic component, dietary component, and more. But there's more to that. But anyway, I point this out because people don't really question if someone's extremely ripped if they don't have much muscle size. And people don't really question if somebody's natural or not if they're extremely big but they lack definition. They really question the muscle size with the definition. And for my current state right now, if I lost about 10 pounds, so if I cut down to like 180, maybe even like say 178, that's when I still retain pretty good muscle mass, but I look extremely hard, extremely ripped. That's like when I'm at my best condition. So, you know, funny enough, if I lost 10 pounds, people would probably question me more whether I'm natural or not. But just to wrap that up, I don't think he's actually using anything right here in that clip that Derek pointed out. I just think, look, man, he's extremely ripped. He's lit extremely well. He's pumped up. Of course, people are going to question that because that is not easy to achieve.
The way you want to look is 70% determined by your diet and only 30% by your training. Now, you've got to train hard. But if you don't eat right, none of it matters.
Hey guys, in part 2, we're going to break down more of the diet and training and why that routine actually could make you look like Wolverine all natural. So we're also going to see what Nick Strength and Power says in part 2 and then some other stuff. Anyway, if you like this kind of content, let me know if you want more fitness-related content. And of course, let me know whether or not you think Hugh Jackman was natural for the Wolverine movies.